So in this video, I want to talk about why we hold on to people that weren't meant for us. And I think probably the easiest thing that we all can agree on is that the main reason is we make up false scenarios or put the person on a pedestal or we think they're a different person than they actually are. And we see them differently in our head than they actually are, right? It's this false sense of identity in that person and how we view them. And as a man, you don't see this very much with other guys, right? Like male friends come and go, you know what I mean? But um, I would be I'd be lying if I didn't say any of my close friends if they were to kind of uh, go down a different path and they're somebody I didn't talk to anymore or weren't able to hang out with. That is hard. The closer they are, the harder that is. But as a man, I think we can kind of move around and be a sort of a floater friend if necessary. Um, and I think we're just better with isolation as well. Um, but when it comes to relationships, that's where I think things can get a little difficult. Um, Because let's be honest, during the day, um, guys tend to think a lot less about women during the day. But once it reaches nighttime and you're just sitting in your bed staring up at the ceiling, you know, you kind of get that sense of loneliness. And if you are currently single, the last thing that your mind can resort to is your ex or situationship or whatever. Um, which ultimately can reset your healing from that person. And the more that you think about it and the more you uh, overanalyze it, the harder and longer it's going to take you to move on from that person. The more that you sit in that and literally romanticize the past, like the older video. I think it's also these two videos kind of go hand in hand. It's definitely a comfort thing, right? Because your mind instantly goes back to the last thing that you had romantically, even if it was somebody who you never dated, right? It could literally be a situationship as well that you can get stuck on, and it's as a man, it kind of messes with your head a little bit um, with sleep or how you perceive yourself and your confidence. Uh, and there's a lot of different things that your mind can tell you, like, well, if you were good enough, they would have stayed, or like, if you were in better shape, if you looked better, if you treated her better, if you spent more time with her, if you bought her this, blah, 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 right? So the more you sit on that, the more and more you're going to feel down on yourself. Um, it can also kind of like hit your personality as well. Um, like you'll start to have thoughts of like, well, if I was more outgoing and energetic or an extrovert, I'd be in a different situation right now, which could be true, right? I think that's why um, you see a lot of teenagers or young men after breakups going to the gym. Um, um, because they have that thought in their head that if they were different in some way or form, or if they had a stronger foundation of what they believe or anything like that, that things would be different. Which again, it could be true. And I think I've seen this change of like thought process when it comes to social media, where it's less of like, oh, that girl left you, prove her wrong, go to the gym and get big, and she'll regret it, blah blah blah. And I think I've seen a little bit of a slow shift of like, well, why didn't you do all of that stuff while you were with the person? Or um, when you were with that person. Um, because let's be honest, we should be constantly growing um, repeatedly. It shouldn't have to be because this happened, now I have to do this. There should be a drive to be better every day, I think, as a human. And I think God can use a breakup to kind of kickstart that. Because when I look back on every relationship or whatever that I've had, I would get too comfortable in the relationship and kind of get a little cocky. Um, and I guess now that I think about it, I would treat the woman really well at the beginning and then slowly less and less, not necessarily care for them, but do less when it came to dates or like if I would buy them something. I'm not saying I would treat them like trash by the end of the relationship, but in my head I would get cocky. I'd have an ego a little bit and get big-headed and think, well, I already bagged this girl, so why would I put more effort into it? And then guess what happens soon after? The girl leaves you, and then you know you realize you made her your whole life, so then you have to figure out who you are and like your new schedule for the day now that that person isn't involved in it. Um, and yeah, I think it's very easy to be confused about it. I know for me, there's a lot of times where I'd be like, God, what was the point of all that? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really, because like when a person, I'm talking specifically situationships. When you look back on it, you didn't gain anything, but you didn't lose anything because you never had anything. But you never gained anything either because you never dated this person. The only thing that happened is you learned more about this person who's no longer, um, most likely what happens um, is you try and be friends with this person, um, and one or the other, one of you was probably in love or had way deeper feelings than the other person. And when you try and do that friendship thing, the person who was in love ends up getting hurt, even though they do want to keep you around, they do like you. Um, and I will say, after a period of time, you can actually be friends, but there has to be a distance in that time. I have figured out that it is possible because I've done it myself, but there needs to be a good amount of time. I'm talking like at least half a year, at least for me. Um, and I think physical distance is great as well. Not just like, I blocked them or whatever, but I mean like as I've gone to college and left Fort Wayne, that person is still in Fort Wayne while I'm over here, so I can build my own life without seeing that person, and that's been huge. And also having just that no contact thing. But as the person who has way more feelings and it was more deeply invested, you need to set the boundaries because the other person isn't going to be able to get it, right? If they're not down to wait for a while and then be friendly again or whatever, just, cut them off completely. But I know for me, I had to set a lot of boundaries like, yo, I can't, like, talk to you right now or like we can't go get coffee right now and like be friendly or whatever. Because you do need that time apart from that person. That's the only way to get over that person. Um, but again, um, the biggest thing is just to start getting busy. That is probably uh, the most genuine way to get over it is to just build a new life. Start doing things you love again. Start, doing new hobbies. Getting active is huge. I'm not saying be the cringy like she broke my heart. I need to go to the gym and use my anger and sadness for the gym. None of that crap. But I'm saying, do it for your own self. I'm not saying you need to get revenge or anything like that, but do it for your own self because it is healthy. Um, glorify God with your body. Um, and just take it how it is. Don't be too like, I'm so mad that I wasted all my time on that. I'm sure in the future you'll realize there was a reason for it, and if not, God works in mysterious ways, that's for sure. But you'll at least get some more experience or catch some patterns for the future, um, and things like that. So I'm a believer in mm, things happen for a reason, even if we never figure out why. I think that is true because I think we all have a path. Um, but it is hard because it seems like, well, with this certain situation, you know, if this person isn't meant for you, you never understand why necessarily, because when you objectively look at it, you think everything should have worked out, and that there should be no reason that it can't work out. And that is a struggle and a personal battle you're just gonna have to get over. Um, so when I think about this, my own experience, I still don't know why, right? And if you ask the person, they'll probably give you some BS answer, right? Um, for example, um, the common answer that I get is, "Oh, I just want to focus on myself," or where I want to go to college, or focus on my grades, or focus on this sport or activity, um, and just find myself, right? Which is valid, honestly. At least that last one. I know that's not what they really mean, but you know, these girls need to get a personality, is all I'm saying. But yeah, it's very easy to hold on to that because there's this false hope that you can make in your head of like, well, things can change, which is true, very true. I myself have changed a lot in a year. That means anybody can. Um, doesn't mean their feelings will necessarily change. And you have to remember if they do change and all of a sudden this girl wants you, you have to remember like um, it could be because uh, your physique is better, or you have more money, or you just like genuinely look better. Um, you know, you have to remember they had a chance with you, um, and they could have seen the potential you had, and maybe they did, but they still didn't choose you then, and they're just choosing you now based on circumstance, um, because it's obvious at that point that they see your value. So I'd say just remember that. I'm not saying, you know, don't go for the girl because they didn't choose you the first time, but I'm saying be careful. And if you do, I would say very much ease into it slowly, and not just jump right back into it and get all giddy about it. Um, but yeah, do not sit on it. Do not wait for half a year to a year of just delusion, um, or think to yourself, why if I do this, this, and that, uh, they'll want me, and then all of this waiting was worth it. I know there's like a verse in the Bible where it's like some guy waited for his wife for like was it 7 years? I don't know, but it's like okay, but I think the reason he still waited for 7 years is because he realized that she was the one for him. Now I think if you wait a year, you'll finally realize possibly that maybe this person wasn't meant for you. The delusion will wear off, right? So I think in that case, first off, that's an extreme. Second off, she actually could have been for him, right? I don't know, was his name Cain? I couldn't tell you, but that's like totally different. The delusion would have wore off if she wasn't the right person for him. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. I know the delusion for me. It's probably been, let's think about this, 7 months ish. Um, I would say just recently I've kind of snapped out of that. Um, so again, bad wording and a stupid saying, but there are more fish in the sea. That's like, I always surprise myself after a relationship where I'm like, oh, I'll never meet a girl like her ever again. And then God's like, I can do better than that. You know what I mean? So he'll send somebody always better every single time and just top the last. So there's a saying where it's like, if you couldn't imagine a life without that person, imagine what God can bring, or something like that. I totally butchered that, but you get the idea. Oh, it was if you can't. Oh, it was like if you can't wrap your head around God taking that person for you, imagine how much better of a person God could put in your life. Something like that. Again, I butchered it. I haven't heard the saying in a while. Um, but yeah, this has been a long video, but it's because I'm passionate about it. Um, and I don't want to see people making the same mistakes as me. And don't get me wrong, one thing that will definitely take you out of this is like finding another girl that spikes your interest again. It took me a while, um, but every time you meet a new girl, that old one that you were thinking of is like completely gone out of your head. Um, because then you look at this new one, you're like, there is better. You know, there is other girls that are similar or better out there. So again, don't sit in that. Don't waste your time. Now, don't get me wrong. She could be the one for you, bro. But like, I would say if she's, getting into like a bunch of relationships in that period of time, after you guys, tread lightly, because you're gonna get a lot of baggage on your lap if that's the case. Um, but, if she like dates one more guy and it's been, you know, a long period of time, if she's not hoeing around, to say it bluntly, um, I think there is definitely an opportunity or a chance there. But if she's, hoeing around and has been with like 6 different people in half a year or a year, it's like, that might not be your girl, bro. There's a lot of hoes out here who are just messing around right now, and I don't know, hoeing around Fort Lauderdale, spring break, BS, and cheating on their boyfriends and all this, and not dressing modestly whatsoever, and you know, getting trains ran on them every weekend. Um, they unfortunately are probably gonna find a husband in the future. Um, some simp who's gonna look at their past and not really care about it, but if you're a high value man, you're gonna know about that stuff and not mess around with it. So tread lightly is all I'll say. But if they did it once, they can do it again. Because this will be a separate video, but um, when it comes to dating, the girls have all the power in the world when it comes to the dating world. They have opportunities literally everywhere around them, no matter where they're at. They run the dating world. Let's be honest. They have all the opportunities. As a guy, we have to go after the girl. You know how many girls are getting DMs right now by showing off their body? Like, I feel bad for genuine girls who have morals and don't do like OF or like post their bikini pics on spring break. That was a shout out, by the way. Um, but yeah, I feel bad for you guys, because it'd be so easy to just be like, all right, I give in, because the amount of money these people are making. But to the women out there who have morals and aren't hoeing around, I salute you. It's a hard world. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Don't wait on the person that you think is for you. Keep living your life. And if they are for you, they'll bounce back into your life. Okay? You, you won't move on from them because I think God will keep them in your head if they're the one. You know what I'm saying? But I think with time, you'll realize that wasn't my girl and you'll move on. Don't sit on that. I know they were a great person, but do not sit in that. Keep living your life. Keep doing stuff. Keep growing. Peace out, Girl Scouts.